Hello everyone, I'm Rajnandini Vyas. I'm a digital marketer and a Pride alumnus of our very own institute. Today I'll be your host for this very knowledgeable, very insightful, and very important session. I am pleased to introduce you all to one of the dynamic and passionate leaders from the industry, Ms. Shruti Mishra. Currently, Ms. Mishra works with Puma Group and leads the talent acquisition vertical. With around 10 years of experience across retail, FMCG, and manufacturing organizations, she is also an ISO 9001 2008 certified quality lead auditor. Ms. Mishra holds a post-graduation degree in instructional design and certification in counseling and psychology. She is also a Pride member of All India Management Association, which is an apex body for management in India. Along with being a dynamic leader, a skillful counselor, and a vibrant talent manager, Ms. Mishra is also honored by many prestigious awards like Best Project Implementation Award, Jombe Under 100 Under 40 HR in 2018, Future HR Future Leader, Emerging Young Leader in HR 2019, and Innovative Women Leader of the Year. Please join in welcoming me in Ms. Shruti Mishra. Over to you, Ms. Mishra.
All right. Thank you so much, Rajnandini, for your kind words. And I don't know if I'll be able to live up to all the, I don't know, the glamour that you have put in my profile. I don't think so. I am that glamorous as it sounds. A couple of things in my profile I got to know, means I was reminded of them today while you talk about the ISO certification and the counseling certification. But yeah, with my limited knowledge, I would want to share my insights on several aspects of the current situation that is happening. And in advance, I would like to apologize to all the students here in case if they do not like my presentation, because ever since my college days, even during my MBA, I was never ever good at making presentations. I would just make some things up and put it there, and I would talk a lot. So I hope you guys will be accommodative to that fact. I have made my presentation into two primary headers. One is talking about how the consumer sentiments are at this point of time from a retail perspective. And since retail is a people intensive industry, I would like to talk about some changes in the workforce or the work ecosystem that has evolved during this entire COVID time. So there'll be, I'll be switching between two time zones. One is your before COVID or during COVID, and then is your after COVID or the current situation which is there. So please bear with me while I take you through my thoughts. I think once I'm done with the presentation is when the questions will be, the house will be open for questions, right?
Yes.
Great. So you can moderate and you can let me know the questions which are being asked by the students. All right.
Yes, for sure.
Great. So I'll just first thank you everybody for your time. I think it's not a very easy task to be up on a Friday, a beautiful, nice Friday. I don't know how beautiful the weather is there, but in Bangalore it is definitely better than other places. Getting up, being here on time, I see a lot of participants there. So I hope, firstly, guys, you are all safe, your families are safe, and I hope you're in the best of health. You're practicing social distancing, maintaining the hygiene and safety protocols in your houses and in your surroundings. I hope that by the end of this presentation, you still have some thoughts to share with me. I'll be open to have more feedbacks, any suggestions, so that I can improve upon myself. And then I hope that we collaborate again soon, sometime in future. Great. So please let me know if my screen is visible. I have tried to share the presentation.
Correct. It is visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. In the slide, I can see my video. So is it visible to you also, or is it just the presentation that's visible?
No, it is visible to me also. So I am sure that it is visible to students also there.
Okay. All right. Great. So again, as I said before, we'll be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on retail sector from two perspectives. One is the consumer, and secondly is the people. So the situation currently, we all know, I think this photograph, when I saw it, resonated with my thoughts and the current situation that we are in. This is an unprecedented time. It is a black swan event, something that had never happened before. There is no rule book, there is no guideline which one can refer to and go on managing their business. We know that the supply chains have been severely impacted due to this lockdown and also the closure of the borders. We know the cash flow has been deeply impacted because the stores, the outlets, the shops were closed down. Also there was a negative sentiment in the market regarding the jobs. There have been job losses, there have been pay cuts, which has also impacted the buying propensity of a person, because once you start earning, you become a consumer. You have money, you have income, you go out, you shop. But in case if that income is curtailed, you no longer remain a consumer, and you would only and only shop for the essentials and will curtail from spending on discretionary items. Essentials basically are your food products, your dairy products, something that can keep you alive, can keep you going. Your discretionary spends would primarily be luxury items, jewelries, furniture, electronics, consumer durables, etc. So there has been a negative sentiment on that sector. Now, when I saw this photograph again, I felt that this is one time where leadership needs to step up, where leaders needs to create more leaders among their own team members, and they need to lead the path for others. There are a lot of market leaders, which I'm sure most of you would have read in certain newspaper or certain blogs, how organizations are stepping up towards this crisis. So initially there was a phase when everybody was in a confusion. You did not know what's going to happen, how we are going to phase it out. Then came a phase when slowly things started to open up, people started to move out, government started to ramp up the facility, whether it's medical facilities or whether you talk about the logistics, you talk about infrastructure. And then currently we are in the third leg of the entire pandemic, which is when the lockdown has lifted up most of it. Of course there are some places where it is still there, and business has started to return back to the usual times. So this current time had actually prepared a lot of leaders amongst ourselves, and these leaders who have been bred in this crisis, in the crucible, have been on the front line, and we are expecting them, and we hope that they continue to lead us in the times to come. Yes. So what do we have at hand is what I said, that earlier we were in a crisis phase when everything has shut shop suddenly. Then we started moving to the ramp up phase where things started to open up. And now is a time when we look at the new normal. Okay. Now, when I talk about consumer sentiments, initially there was fear in the minds of people. I'm sure you can see in this word cloud, which I have taken from a BCG report, which talks about the words which were frequently used by the consumer when they were asked about the situation which is there. And you can see the words like a fear, like quarantine, like risk, pandemic, panic, hype. These are the kind of words, and they reflect a lot of negativity, if you see, right? So people did not know what it was. We were all running like headless chicken. Organizations, a lot of them had initially shut operations. Like in the month of March, even for us as Puma, we started to close down our outlets. So malls had shut down, which almost impacted 50% or more of our business. Slowly and steadily, the stores in the high streets had shut down, which impacted around 80% of our business, around 75 to 80% of our business. And then slowly the supply chain stopped, which also impacted your e-commerce. So at the end of March and in the month of April, as we stepped into April, there was zero revenues across. And it is not only one brand, but a lot of other brands had suffered this kind of a situation. And there was only limited things that you could do, right? So what would an organization do when there is no revenue flowing in? Because your output, your outlet to the expenses remain. You still have your stores. You have to make sure the salaries of the employees goes on. You have to make sure the basic lendings that you have taken from the banks have to be met. Your liability towards your stakeholders have to be met. So these kind of expenses continue despite having zero revenues. Now, this is not only in case of us, but it is across all brands which were there. How do we manage this pandemic situation? Uh, So yes, so revenues and earnings was one thing which was negatively impacted. Around 60% of the companies had expected a negative revenues and earnings. Uh, yes, of course, there are companies that were hopeful that things would come back, but it would not be a short term, but it would be instead a medium term. Supply chain and labor were massively hit because people had started to go back to their hometowns. So a lot of manufacturing sectors had been impacted. The word which we keep on hearing about migrant laborers going back, and initially it was more like everyone wants to go back, but what people later realized is that it has a huge negative impact on the livelihood as well, because once you go back to your hometown you have no jobs, and while you had jobs back in, let's say, another city, the city manufacturing suffers because there's no labor, so who runs it? So it was a huge question mark which was there. Now, what it also led people to think, and it was a completely paradigm shift, was to look at the ways in which we can continue our work. So, work from home, which was a novel phenomena, and it was only limited to certain sectors, started to gain impetus. Every other sector started to work from home, and they started to ramp up their digital infrastructure to make sure that the employees are equipped to give their 100% productivity to the organization despite not being in the office physically. One example which I have quoted here is the TCS 25-25 rule. I'm sure it was much spoken about, much talked about, and it is something which is a very innovative thing to do. It's a huge risk to take into consideration, given in that it might impact productivity. A lot of organizations probably will not be able to adapt to this similar philosophy given into the nature of business. Howsoever, work from home will remain a phenomena which will continue even in the times to come. Okay, moving on to the next slide, where this talks about the current situation which is there. So, of course, the business as usual continues. There will still be a fear of virus. There will be fears which will talk about your recession. There will be fears which will talk about your job cuts, your loss in the salary. But again, as resilient as a species that we are, we will ramp up to it. So in this is again a graph which I had taken from BCG because it beautifully captured the sentiments around the fear, and also it showed an optimism where 80% of the people said that probably things will not change. Maybe it will take some time to recover, but we will still get back to the business. So while the winner in this entire pandemic situations have been your necessity items such as your fresh organic food, or let's say your healthcare, or people have started to give more emphasis on saving money because of 2-3 months they had saved some amount, thankfully, if there wasn't any casualty or any medical emergencies in the family, they were able to save some money, and people started to figure out ways into how and where can we invest this money. The sectors which had taken a hit was definitely tourism, was definitely hospitality, luxury, travel, these kind of aviation. These are some of the sectors which were massively hit, and they are going to take time to recover because of the current fear around the health, hygiene, and safety conditions. People will take time to go back to their holidays, will still take time to go back to maybe traveling outside. They'll think twice before catching a flight. So these are the kind of situations, these are the norms which have started to flow into our daily routine, which were probably not there earlier, or we did not think so much on these lines. Okay, so the current situation, if you see, a lot of analysts have looked back, because I think that's our tendency, when such kind of things happen, we always want to go back, refer if there has been a similar situation somewhere. And a couple of examples that were quoted was about SARS in China. So SARS in China happened in 2003 and 4. It was of a similar kind, where this was a respiratory disease spread from bats to human beings. And this had also led to a similar situation where people were asked to quarantine themselves in their homes. Measures of social distancing were taken into consideration. Something similar had happened in India, in Kerala, called as Nipah. But Nipah was contained only in majorly in Kerala, and hence a lot of people aren't aware of it. but they also had similar kind of a situation where it was a respiratory disease which would spread. Of course, Nipah would spread from a different medium, but SARS was how it would spread from a human to another human. And in that time, again, there was a huge recession which was caused, but this recession stayed only for a period of 8 months, which means there was a recovery which happened in the system, but it was a V-shaped recovery. So I'm sure you must have studied in your curriculum about the various kind of recessions and recovery. So there is a U-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery, W-shaped recovery, and a L-shaped recovery. L-shaped recovery is something which, God forbid, shouldn't ever happen, because there's a huge structural damage. It's like a letter L, and there are hardly any chances of recovery. Usually what happens in a V-shaped recovery, which happens for a short duration of around 8 months to a year, is when there is no structural damage and the economy starts to bounce back, like the letter V. So it starts to bounce back again without having huge damages. In the U-shaped, it still takes a little more time compared to a V-shaped recovery. Now here, what the analysts predict is that the recovery which will happen will be a V-shaped recovery. It will have the current loss in business will have an impact in the economy or to an overall industry from a medium term perspective, let's say for the next 6-8 months, and then we will start to see signs of recovery. Even when it happened in SARS, in the year 2003, I think that was one phase when Alibaba stepped up, and it has now become, I think Jack Ma is one of the richest man across the globe. So this pandemic gave rise to Alibaba, if you see. Now in the US recession, which happened in 2007, 2009, I had graduated fresh out of my engineering college at that point of time, and it was my first job with a US automobile company, and I have seen that heat of recession, what happens. That was again one time when a lot of automobile companies had started to file for insolvency or bankruptcy in the US, which had massive impact across the globe. The recovery took some time, but again, the organization started to bounce back after a period of around 9 months, if I may be. 9 months to a year was a period of recovery which had taken. So similar kind of a sentiments, as I said, is being expected from India as well. Now, while we talk about the market situation, retail is a sector which is extremely intensive in terms of people. Now, what are the kind of changes that we saw at the workplace? So, firstly, was a work from home phenomena, which started off with an initial euphoria. People started to figure out ways and means. There were so many calls which were happening every day, day in, day out. Managers did not know how to manage their team because this was one situation that was never heard of. They had they had issues in how to make sure the productivity remains as is without without impacting the morale of the employees. But slowly and steadily it has started to emerge as a long term strategy. So initially, where people would rush up and have these calls, would rush up and have the meetings, now are started to become more planned about their work. Second point comes to the digital infrastructure. So digital infrastructure still remains a little bit of a concern, especially in places like Bombay, where we know the sizes of the house where people stay. So still, and not only in Bombay, but of course in a lot of other tier 2, tier 3 cities, where having a private space, having your own office setup within your house, within the construct of your house, is a little bit of a challenge. Having an ergonomic workstation, which was there in office. So office has a desk, has a chair, which is ergonomically designed so that you don't have a backache. You can sit for a longer period of time. Getting this infrastructure to home is going to remain a challenge. The broadband and the network connectivity, I'm sure all of us has faced this in this period of lockdown. Suddenly people started to realize how important it is to have a high speed broadband at home. I think I was also one of those people, because I never realized the importance of broadband usage at home. I won't be an extensive user, but given into the lockdown, when I had to work from home, I made sure that the infrastructure in place, and I'm sure a lot of people have had a similar kind of a thought. Talking about work-life balance, definitely this is an area where we all need to give it a thought. We as an organization also needs to think and plan about our employees' well-being, because now is an era where People are easily distracted. You have your WhatsApp, you have your Outlook, your Gmail, your Skype, your webinars, your trainings, and people get overwhelmed. Earlier, in a situation like this, when a person left office at whatever 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they would shut their laptops, go back home, spend time with their family, and that's about it. But now is a time when the laptop opens at 9 a.m. in the morning and continues to 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. in the evening, and the boundary between the work and a house has been erased, because people are at home, right? So this has started to also make people overwhelmed, have started to burn them out. And of course, this managing of the work life balance is going to be an expensive affair for all of us. One beautiful phenomena which I observed was the democratization of the household chores. So earlier, talking from a very female perspective, the woman in the family was expected to manage the house, was also expected to manage the office. So she would get up in the morning, pack a dabba for her kid or for her husband, and pack up food for her in-laws, or let's say anybody who's staying with them, the extended family, and then take the local or take the bus and rush to the office. Once done at the office by 6, 7 o'clock, she would come back home, again through that same whole ordeal of catching a local train or taking a public transport or driving back of kilometers, coming back home, again cooking for everybody, and by the time it was 10, 11 o'clock, she would be dead, right? I'm sure most of the women, I don't know how, mostly of course are students here, but some of the members of the academic fraternity can identify with this feeling. But given into the lockdown, now that everybody was at home, and the woman and the man in the family would have the calls or would have the meetings at the same time, this started to bring a change in the mindset, and people became democratic about the work about the household chores. So the mother would be expected to do certain work, the father would be expected to do certain work, the family, the other supported families would be expected to do certain work, and this work started to get segmented or decentralized into everybody's kitty, right? So not only one person was responsible for cleaning, cooking, managing, everybody was responsible to do some or the other tasks. So I think this was a beautiful phenomena when it also cemented the family bonds. While people were busy with their professional life, they also came together to have meals, right? Which was earlier probably something that one would have to plan and do it. Also, this change in the workplace led to a lot of entrants in terms of workforce, which were veterans, people with disability, people who had taken sabbatical after the birth of their child. So these productive segment of the workforce, which could not be a part of the corporate life given into their other priorities, were now started to or now have started to come back to work, because they know that it is much more easier within the comfort of their home. They can manage their household responsibility as well as they can be productive or efficient into the professional world. Now, what still is to be evaluated is the stickiness of this change. So while all these changes have happened, we are yet to see how long are these changes going to last. All right. So this is something which I think, while we spoke about the workplace, this is something that we have seen across all the boards. So whether it's about a pay cut, whether it's about a layoff, and it is across all sectors. You talk about hospitality, you talk about the startups in terms of aggregators. So whether it's a Oyo Room or whether it's a Zomato, Uber, Swiggy, etc. A lot of these organizations, in order to make sure their balance sheet remains survivable, they can survive the industry, they had got to resort to these measures to make sure that whatever bare bone structure they could have, they could sustain it. Now, while at one hand the job cuts and pay cuts were happening, we also saw the innovations which started to come into picture. So while Zomato had laid off their employees, they also built up something called as a talent directory. This talent directory, you can Google and figure it out, and you can just type Zomato talent directory, and you see that Zomato has created an entire directory of their employees along with their talent skills, so that it is open to other employers to hire them. So now is not a time when people would think about competition. People have come together to be more collaborative. Companies have come together to become more collaborative, and they are willing to share this talent with each other. So while one organization says that I do not have the enough role for my employees to be a part of, I might as well open this talent pool to the other organizations who can benefit on them. So this, whether it's Zomato is one of the example. It has done by Swiggy, it has been done by Uber, it has been done by Airbnb, where they have opened up such kind of avenues where they have collaborated with the other organization to make sure that the livelihoods do not get lost. A couple of other examples which I have highlighted here. So Nivea has partnered with Swiggy and Zomato for their delivery of hygiene products. HUL had tied up with UNICEF to help the tea plantation workers fight the COVID-19. Again, there was a Zomato's Feed India program which was done so that the daily wages are being fed food. And then Uber and Big Basket was a collaboration. Similarly, Spencer Retail had done a collaboration with these aggregators of Uber and Ola to deliver their essential goods across various households. So this was one of the one situation which has given more impetus to collaboration rather than having competition. Okay, so now I'll take you through a couple of transformational forces that have impacted the employees and is going to impact the organizations in the times to come. So one is the accelerated adoption of smart work. How can we work smartly? Can the workstation be made more ergonomic? Can be made more accessible to everybody? Health and hygiene, where we talk about the mental and the physical wellness about the employees. Paradigms in terms of skills and talent, how the mindset or the lens to look at talent has shifted. Workforce flexibility to having flexible workstation, having flexible workforce. Empathetic leadership, where leadership is not only about transparent communication, but it also talks about leadership leading from your head, heart, and hand. Culture, which is not only a fun and game culture, but has now transformed into a purpose-driven culture. Being digital, of course, is not a new phenomena. The only thing is that this crisis has actually shortened the time gap. So whatever was your game plan for 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line have started to happen now. All right, in terms of evolution of people priorities, again the same thing, how what I spoke in the last slide, how it has transformed. So a smart work, accelerating smart work has become the new normal, has become the smart work now. Corporate health and hygiene has transformed into a physical, mental, financial well-being of the employees. Migrating or managing people and managing the skill risk has now led to change in the lens of how we look at skills and talent. Workforce flexibility has led to flexible workforce with the entrance of part-timers, with the entrance of PWD, veterans, returning mothers at work. Communication moved to a leadership with head, heart, and hand. Solidarity has led to purpose-driven culture, and speeding up of digital readiness has now become the bionic organizations. All right. So when I talk about smart work, it is basically about setting up smart workplaces where some of the things we've already heard, where you have 50% workforce coming to the offices, or earlier it was 33%, which now went to 50%. So there are rotational shifts, there are alternate day shifts where people work. People are trying to manage the on-site and the remote work. There are teams A, team B, team X, Y, Z, whatever you call it. There are several teams which work in rotation so that the business does not get impacted while you are there in the office as and when required. So now you have more flexibility to work virtually, to collaborate with the teams. The teams now no longer are hierarchy driven. The teams are more organic and curated from within the entire ecosystem. This has also helped the organization in rationalizing their cost, because now you don't need such a big real estate to build up an office, or a real estate to have your tech parks, or to spend more on electricity or food or employee hygiene perspective. So I think this has led to a huge paradigm shift when it comes to workplaces. Physical and mental health. So I think I'm sure some of you must have joined the Cult Fit, because Cult had come up with a brilliant initiative where they had started with free online classes. They had started giving users a flavor of what it is to stay fit. There were several platforms where you could learn about meditation, you could learn about yoga. Making mental health at a forefront was one of the initiatives which was taken up, I think, by HUL also, or by Godrej. They had collaborated with certain organizations where they would come together and they would emphasis on the mental well-being of the employees. So this well-being has also resulted not only in terms of keeping themselves sane, but also trying to manage their work in these difficult times. The paradigm shift in terms of skills and talent, I'm sure a lot of you must have seen the LinkedIn Learning or the Udemy or the edX, which came up with free courses. A lot of these edtech became a new buzzword, and a lot of these organizations had given out free courses for the general population to learn, to reskill themselves. And I think this is one place where all of us has leveraged technology to the T. Now, while people have started to learn, we also see different kind of projects coming up within the organization. So Six Sigma, which earlier would only be a part of a Six Sigma team or a quality management team, has now become a part of all the teams. So teams do not work in silos. Now teams are becoming more cross-functional. They take up projects which are cross-functional. So in retail, we have a brilliant program called Catalyst, where we try and optimize the operational expenses in the organization. And these teams who are a part of Catalyst projects are the teams from different functions within the organizations. So while they take up different aspects, whether they talk about brand management, or they talk about operational excellence, or they talk about financial rationalization, these team comprises of people from different functions who brings in different kind of expertise. So whatever you have learned digitally, you get a chance to implement it physically. Moving on to flexible workforce, we talk about new kind of workforce, the gig workers who are a part of the organization. These gig workers are in an organization for a limited period of time. They are working on project to project basis. They are more like an industry consultant. So these gig workers work across the industries. Then you hire them for a certain period of time or certain projects. And this is something which was not thought of before. Having part-timers to work in your organization was not something which was a rampant phenomena, but thanks to the COVID-19 situation, these people have started to make entrance in the workforce, and it has changed the entire model of how an employee works. Moving on to leadership with head, heart, and hand, I have put Indra Nui here because I feel that she is one leader, one iconic leader that a lot of us look up to. I'm sure all of us, the students, will have their own iconic leadership which they can look up to. So now leadership is more about leading with empathy, leading with direction. Any action that you take is being watched by several people, and it is not only happening in the confines of your organization. These leaders are now responsible to manage and to create more leaders within their own team. The communication at this time had a huge importance because this was one situation where people were confused. There was so much of ambiguity. Even the government circulars that came through did not give a lot of clarity, and there was revision happening here, there. So it was one chaotic situation. A lot of organization, including ours, I think our leaders had stepped up. They had led from the front. We had transparent communication, we had newsletters, we had town halls, we had one-on-one sessions, we had focus group discussion, which helped us to manage this situation much better than it would have been if we would not have had these measures put into place. A purpose-driven culture is when you create a culture where people want to come to work, not only just to earn a paycheck, but also to contribute to the society. As Puma, we had partnered with Give India to do a fundraising and procure PPE kits for the doctors who would be helping and supporting the people who are suffering from COVID-19. Similarly, a lot of organizations, I think earlier in the slide I mentioned Zomato, which had made a Feed India program where they would feed the migrant laborers. Lot of people, leave aside organization, I think common man came down on the street to help their own across the various cities, across various sectors. Nobody thought whether I am from West India or I am from North India and I should only help North Indian. No, it did not happen. we saw this one pandemic where everybody came together, they joined hands, and they thought that we are going to support humanity because humanity comes first before any of your other social constructs. So having this one time brought people together, the organizations together, and aligned them to a much bigger purpose, a bigger vision, and each organization had lived up to their brand values. Moving to the last bit of it, which is Bionic Organization. I think this was one time where digital, AI, machine learning, data analysis were some of the keywords which came into picture. I think this is something which is going to last for even the times to come. Organizations now are going to simplify their operating modules. They are going to be agile. We are going to have a lot of agile teams. We are going to have more of cross-functional teams. And when I say we, it is not only Puma, it is across the organizations. Harnessing data will become a primary responsibility for each employee. Data-driven decisions are going to be the new norm. AI is something which will be implemented across various functions. If you talk about maybe HR, some of the new trends in HR that I have seen, which involves AI, is in the hiring segment. So maybe earlier the conventional way of hiring would be to go across, do a head hunting, or depend on consultants to give you manpower. But what now the organizations, these AI-driven organizations, are bringing into picture are tools where they can get candidates across the job portals. They can do an AI-based assessment which tracks your eyeball movement, which tracks your facial movements, brings in the report, sends in the report, gives you a score on the various competencies which are laid by the organization. And then when the organization looks at this pool, this is a ready-made pool of people who you have to probably do an online interview and roll out the job offers. So from evaluating 100 or 500 or 1,000 candidates, you now have a condensed pool of 50 candidates that you have to look at. So AI has now does that mean AI has taken away my job? No. AI has reduced my task and evolved my job so that I can focus more on the evaluation rather than doing the logistics. I'm sure such kind of similar trends will be prevalent across various functions in the organization. All right. So having said that, I think I am almost I have also exceeded probably my time. And I would just like to conclude my presentation with this beautiful quote by Lenin, which says, "There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen." I think this is quite apt to what it is. Thank you so much.
Correct. Thanks, Shruti. It was lovely and very insightful session, right, for today. And I am sure, along with the students, it helped me also a lot personally because I'm also working from home, and it helped me a lot with a lot of things. And our chat box is flooded with a lot of questions.
Great. That's a
So,
good sign.
so you mentioned about the TCS 2025 policy,
Yeah.
right? Do you want to throw some more light on the same?
So I think TCS has said that 25% of their workforce will now be in offices and will be 100% productive by, I think, 2025. This is their target, to have only 25% of their workforce in office and have rest of them working from home. In case
Great.
of TCS, it is much easier to do because they have a lot of on-site clients where someone's work with having a laptop and a phone is much easier to put into work from home perspective. And I think it can work beautifully because then they save on huge real estate. So I think in an IT organization, if I'm not wrong, the per head cost is around 40,000-50,000 a month. And this cost also includes your electricity cost, your cost for parking spaces, your cost for meals, for your wellness. A lot of programs keeps on running, right, in an IT sector. So imagine
Right.
that by 15,000 multiplied by 365 is going to be a huge saving.
Great. Right. Correct. True. There is this next question. So you have just mentioned that there are a lot of industries like hospitality or online food delivering services probably. These are one of the most then again aviation, right? So these are most affected industries from this pandemic. So what do you think? How will they respond to this situation, and how do you see it 3 years down the line probably?
See, 3 years down the line, I hope firstly there's nothing like COVID which happens again. If that doesn't happen, we are still in a better stead. If it happens, then I really don't know what to say on it. To be in all honesty, I think recently I read that PVR will be starting up with their cinema halls, right? That's again
Yeah.
entertainment media. So PVR is going to have the social distancing measure. So they are going to have a seating capacity not at what it was earlier, but it would be reduced capacity. However, the operations will resume. Similarly, if you see the flights have resumed, there is a lot of social distancing. You're supposed to wear the face mask. You're supposed to, have your Arogya Setu app. You cannot carry luggage in your cabin, but you can carry baggage for your, I think, the overall luggage perspective. So some of these norms, some of these innovative things are going to be there. It is going to take much longer time for recovery as compared to the other industry. And I think any kind of recession, it's never a equivalent scale. Some industries
Mm-hmm.
recover faster, some industry takes time to recover. Here,
Okay.
hospitality, aviation, tourism are industry which will still take time, because people will be in that mindset of making sure if where they are going they are safe. They should not contact COVID, or they should not get into a situation which is not beneficial for their families. So to answer you, the recovery will happen, but it will happen with a little longer time as compared to the other sectors.
Okay. There was this other question. I guess there are three, four questions on the same line.
Sure.
Students are really curious to know what are the changes you can see in Puma after COVID. Maybe in the terms of digitization, maybe in the terms of innovation. So, do you want to explain it a little more? Like, what
Sure.
are the changes post COVID in Puma?
Okay. Firstly, I would have expected and I would expect some of you to go to the Puma store to experience it firsthand. But having said that, I know that there are restrictions, but as and when you get time, you should go. I think we have ramped up our hygiene protocols and cleanly protocols to the T. Earlier, it wouldn't happen much as it is. Of course, the stores were clean and we would have hygiene, but sanitizing every hour, making sure the trial rooms are sanitized. So before you go and try a garment, that entire trial room gets sanitized in front of your eyes. When you are out of the trial room, those trial garments are kept separately, and then they are steamed and they are sanitized. Whatever footwear, similarly for other products that you are touching, you're using, it is there. We take the thermal check. We do a temperature check once a customer enters into the store. People are wearing a mask. People are wearing gloves all the time. Temperatures are being checked at every interval, around 4-5 hours. The temperatures are being checked. The workforce works on a rotational basis and not 100% basis in terms of store. For us as corporate employees, we are working from home. We have made our schedules in such a way. So earlier, let's say about me, in my team, I would probably have these weekly calls done with my team to understand what they are in terms of work and how they are delivering their work. Now we have a quick daily check-in call where everybody gets 5-10 minutes to talk about their work. So, which I feel has brought the team even closer than how it was before. We are much more aware of what people are doing. And this is not something which has been told by my boss to do it. I think we came up with this
Right.
idea of, organically managing. So organically managing the team, being much more planned and organized. I am a person who manages her house also and work also. So, managing things at the same point of time, I think prioritizing was something that I have learned in this time. And very, very important is to be physically fit and mentally fit, because there's so
Correct.
much of pressure. You tend to bog down to the pressure. You don't understand. You're so confused. There are several things to be done at the same point of time. So while I have a meeting, I also have to cook my lunch. How do I manage these kind of
True.
situations is something that I think this situation has brought into all of us.
Correct. So I guess we can have two or three more questions. So a lot of people are also asking about the supply chain you mentioned in the presentation.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Can you throw some more light the changes on in supply chain management or the entire process?
Sure. So initially, when the lockdown had happened, the borders had closed, right? So wherever the procurement would happen across the border or the trade would happen across the border got massively impacted. Also, with the negative sentiment around China. So in the month of let's say January, February, it was more of a supply chain because you had a very competitive neighborhood to you. Now, post COVID, it is more of a situation where we are questioning the demand. So where is the demand? Also, with our honorable Prime Minister stating importance of being vocal for local, we see a lot of local manufacturing now being set up. I hope the government gives certain relaxation in terms of tax leniency to these MSME sectors where we can have more in-house production. So supply chain will become more local. Of course, there will be certain places or certain segments which will depend on the international borders or will depend upon the borders across the state of their origin. But yes, as I was mentioning, was in the context that initially the borders were locked. Now the borders have opened. Supply chain becomes a little more easier to transact. And with, of course, vocal for local, we will see more of localized supply chain and localized manufacturing.
Great. So I guess we have this last question wherein I want you to recommend some do's and don'ts to our students to keep their mental health in check as of now. The scenario is really, it's really bad, and a lot of us are facing a lot of mental issues also. So I would, request you to, share some do's and don'ts for these students.
Okay. See, I'm not a very prolific person when it comes to these recommendations, but one thing which I would recommend is that please have a routine. This is one time where you can get swayed. So today I get up at 6, tomorrow I can get up at 7, day after tomorrow I get up at 8. As long as I'm logging in at 9 o'clock, everything is okay. You should not get into or fall into this trap. Have a routine for everything. Make time for your own personal development. Give time for your own hobbies. Like I take out time every day to read, whether it's 2 pages, 5 pages, as much as it is. But in my head, before going off to sleep, I need to read. So I would request and urge all the students to make a slot or have a routine to themselves. Take out time to do your assignments. Take out time to indulge in your own hobbies, maybe music, painting, dance, creative, whatever rocks your boat. So make time for your own personal development along with your curriculum. And thirdly is to do things which are apart from your curriculum, because now is the time for talent stacking. It is not only what you're good at one particular domain, it is how malleable you are to move to another domain. So while you are specializing in HR, while you're specializing in finance, analytics is one of the things which all of you should do. You should definitely read about it. You should definitely do a live project. This is a beautiful time to do live projects with other organizations or organizations of your interest. So indulge in these kind of activities. Make use of this time, because this is one time which I hope doesn't come back, and in all good senses will not come back.
Correct. So I guess it was a really insightful session for all of us today, Ms. Mishra. And I would like to close the session here with a quote, which is, there is nothing permanent except the change. And I guess let's accept the change and conquer it with the growth and positivity and grow together. So
Very well
it was
said.
really nice having you today, and I'm sure it was really helpful for all of us. Looking forward to contact or connect, to stay connected after the session also, Ms. Mishra.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Raj, Nandini. And again, thank you so much to the academic members and the students who took out time and were patient enough to listen to me. And I hope our paths will cross again soon.
For sure, for sure.
Again soon.
For sure, for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Mishra.